Live.
All right, live. Mark, are we up? We'll just start. Mark will tell us if we're up or not.
Just go.
All right, here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. This is episode 11. Yes. So I'm Quincy Wilson from Cummins & Company Realtors.
John Wald, Primary Residential Mortgage. If you haven't caught on for the past
11 episodes?
10 times, 11
There
times.
we go, yeah. And so today we're going to be talking about the loan process. So everything that happens while your loan is, going from start to finish, what happens all behind the scenes. So John's going to be doing a lot of the talking today. I'll be asking questions, but it should be some good information. I think today will be a lot of information that people will always wonder, but don't really know. So we'll try and shed some light on that. So, Mark, do you know if we're live yet?
You are.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the first question, John.
Yep.
What is the loan officer? The loan officer is usually the first point of contact, but what is the role of the loan officer throughout the
Yep.
process and transaction?
So the loan officer's role is to make sure that the borrower qualifies. So what they're going to do is go ahead and look at their credit, what's called loan-to-value ratio, which is basically how much money the borrower is putting down versus the house's purchase price. And then the most important job is to calculate income and count it against what's called debt-to-total income ratio.
Right.
They're also going to fit to make sure that they're getting into a loan program that is desirable and what they want to, as a client, what they want to get into. A licensed loan officer is somebody that's either licensed by the state or federally, and you have to take a license, you have to take continuing education, you need to renew that every single year. There's a site where you could look up licensed loan officers if you think you're not talking to somebody licensed. Let's hope you are.
That should be pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, at some point we put up, it was in your little booklet, the graph, so we'll try and put that up again. So
and there's a short little video that I created, which
is,
it's 2 minutes long. It's an animated video which goes over what we as a loan officer look at. And again, we're there to structure the loan to best fit your needs. And when you sit down with a loan officer, you want to have an idea of what you're going to qualify for.
Right.
The toughest question for me as a loan officer is when somebody sits down with me and says, what's the max I could qualify for? Well, the max that you could qualify for is what you're going to be comfortable for as a monthly payment.
That's a much better question. What am I comfortable with, and what's the max? All right. So, also another important person is a processor during the loan transaction. What's a processor? What's their job? What do they do?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, as a loan officer, I'm not the only one involved in your transaction. There's a lot of people involved in your transaction. One of the crucial members of the transaction is your loan processor. Your loan processor works with me and the underwriter. They're kind of a liaison between me as a loan officer and the underwriter. They work with me to help gather conditions. They work with the underwriter to make sure that all the conditions are in and that everything meets the needs of the loan and everybody qualifies. So the loan processor's role is absolutely crucial, and in my case, my processors communicate with the client throughout the entire transaction, along with me on what's potentially missing, such as, hey, we need an updated bank statement, or we need a clearer copy of your driver's license, or you need to verify this large deposit. So that's their role in the transaction, and it's absolutely critical, throughout the transaction.
And you guys employ a decent amount of processors, and you guys do a decent amount of business too.
Yep.
But I mean, it takes a lot of processors to do the loans. So.
It does.
And then our favorite people, underwriters. What are underwriters? What is their job?
Yep.
What effect do they or can they have on the transaction?
So the best way to describe an underwriter is the person with our checkbook. So what they're doing is, if you're borrowing $400,000 from us, what they're doing is to making sure that your income is what it says it is. They're making sure the guidelines are met. If you're doing an FHA, a VA, a CDA, a conventional loan, they want to make sure that all the guidelines that are required in order to fit you into that mortgage are met. So their job is basically to verify every document, verify the income that I'm using is accurate, and they're the final stamp on the loan. So when they said it's good, it's usually what you get is called a clear to close. And the clear to close means that we've checked off all boxes, you meet the guidelines, your income is correct, and we're ready to get you rocking and rolling, and we're done. But they're not, an evil witch behind the curtain They're real people. You know, luckily with our company, our underwriters are accessible. Actually, right before this meeting, I had a phone call with an underwriter on a loan that I'm trying to work out. You know, they're here to make sure the transaction happens. That's the most important thing that you have to understand. They're not there to prevent the transaction. They're here to make sure the transaction happens and you get into a home, but they just want to make sure that all the guidelines are met. Unfortunately, over the years, guidelines change. I mean, moment by moment. It's not the easiest thing, and some guidelines just don't make sense, you know, for the common loan.
Right. Yeah.
But their job is to make sure that everything works out. And I'm very proud to say that we have incredible underwriters, you know, in my company. We have 11 full-time underwriters that I have access to at all times, even before, if I'm doing a pre-approval letter, I reach out to them if it's a unique situation.
I was going to say, I think another important role is, as you're getting somebody started, if you have questions, if it's a, you know, maybe a rarely used loan program or something, to ask them ahead of time before just start the ball rolling. They can vet out a lot of questions, a lot of issues before you get started, so stuff would fall apart the last hour there.
Absolutely.
So if you ever meet an underwriter, just give them a hug. They take a lot of grief. Yes.
They do get a lot of grief, and you will not hear from the underwriter. That's another thing that, you know, in some cases you may get a phone call from the underwriter. It is very rare. You know, again, they're behind the scenes and they're churning and burning and do a lot of business. And make sure everything's met correctly. But you will rarely hear from the underwriter. You're going to hear from me, my assistant, or a loan officer assistant, and a processor through the transaction. So
switching gears. So those are basically all the people involved, right? All the jobs involved. So let's talk about what are some common mistakes that borrowers make that can kind of either make the process just harder or even derail the process.
Yep. I mean, that's
I know there are a lot, but what are some of the common ones?
I'll say I wish this podcast went up about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
This week alone has been a trying week for me at my current files, in the sense that, you know, just recently I had a borrower quit her job. She's supposed to be going to closing yesterday.
Right.
Actually, she was supposed to close yesterday, but she put her 2 weeks notice in and she quit her job. Well, that's number one. We're qualifying you on the income that you have today, okay? You could quit a job, you know, 2 weeks to a year to 10 years down the road. We're not going to pull the loan from you. But do not cancel your employment or quit your job before you buy a house. That's number one.
So you're saying you need gainful employment for a loan?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep your job.
Seems fair enough.
Yeah. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So keep your job. Do not go ahead and take out new credit card debts. Don't take out anything that will impact your credit. Even if Ashley Furniture is running a 0% financing, I mean, just wait to do it after closing, because we have to count those debts against you. And the other thing too is cash is not king in this business. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I have $1,000 in cash," so don't go ahead and deposit cash because we can't use cash.
Right.
So basically the biggest thing is taking extra debt, keeping your job. Communication is key. You know, if you have a question, I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you. Just reach out to me and I'll help you.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a conversation as soon as we go under contract. I always say, no new debt. You know, it doesn't matter. Just the standard bills that you normally have. Don't move a lot of money around. Anything that involves money, just ask the loan officer first. And the conversation about cash always comes up. I've definitely seen some transactions go south just because they deposited, $1,000 from mom and dad, or
that we can't source
a large bar tab the night before. Yeah, so it's definitely gone out.
And but no new debt also means don't go ahead and you don't need to worry about using your existing credit cards, your existing bank account, your existing debit card. We don't want you to stop life, okay? But simply what I mean by no new debt is we don't want you to go ahead and take out a new credit card, a new car payment, or something of that nature.
Yeah, people are excited. They want to buy new living room furniture. They want to do all this stuff ahead of time. And it's a bad idea because something could fall apart on the deal itself. But also it's a bad idea because you could ruin your loans.
Yep, absolutely.
And that kind of leads us into our last and final question. So what are some things a borrower can do to make the process just go more smoothly? What are some tips for people?
I mean, my biggest advice is, look, your realtor, they're going to be your best friend.
Exactly.
Okay? Yeah. I'm the money guy. I'm behind the scenes. I'm collecting the income. I'm telling you can get a loan, you can't get a loan. If you can, set up an appointment, meet with the loan officer face to face for about 45 minutes. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think you have to find. I mean, we talked about this before, but you have to find, and I'll say this, you have to find like a reputable loan officer. So like ideally somebody who's local, that has the contacts, and knows the process as well, that knows our local customs and laws here, good reviews, and you were probably just about to say this, but when you set up that appointment, a decent loan officer will give you a loan estimate. They will collect real paperwork from you, not just verbal stuff. And I know it's a little tougher on the front end. We talk about this all the time. However, when you collect all the paperwork on the front end, halfway through your loan's going to be going strong, as opposed to finding out, your income is slightly less than we thought, and things like this, and then it all falls apart. So a good old loan officer, I think, does a lot more work on the front end, so things are easier in the back end, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, we pre-scrub everything.
Right.
And, the only thing I could ask for you as a borrower and to make your life easier, because you've got 4,000 other things to worry about than just making sure the loan goes through. You got a home inspection, you got termite inspection, you got radon, you got to get the moving company, you've got to change your address. It's a lot. It's stressful.
Right, it is.
The loan shouldn't be stressful. So prepare yourself, get organized before you meet with the loan officer. Reach out to the loan officer, ask him for the documents, meet with the loan officer, get everything buttoned up, and then, like you said, take care of the big weight off your shoulder ahead of time and make sure you're qualified, and then just go out there.
Right.
And then the fun really begins.
Exactly,
So.
I think also, just to wrap it up, just stay calm. You understand you're borrowing money.
Yep.
So people are going to ask some questions. People are going to vet you that you can pay that loan back.
Yep.
And it's just common sense. And like you said before, I think communication too is key. So.
Yeah. And if you've got questions, I mean, honestly, if you got money coming in, you got this coming in, the best thing to do is honestly just sit down, even if you're 7 months, a year out from buying a house. That's the best time to meet with somebody, because then you just check that off the box. You feel comfortable, you feel confident, and one last thing is, again, working with local. Real estate's local, lending is local. I got to say, a few times I've had contracts get accepted just because they're working with me and a local real estate agent. And, the reputation is a very, very big thing.
And most decent agents will, before accepting an offer on a listing, I know I do, I call the loan officer, and I vet the loan officer. And I vet the loan officer as much as I'm vetting the contract or the buyer. Yeah. If I have no idea who the loan officer is, either not accepting or I'm nervous. So
Absolutely.
All right, well, I think that's it. So a couple of announcements you forgot at the beginning, excuse me. So one thing we're going to start doing for the people who miss this, I know sometimes 11:30 might be a tough time, is we are going to start issuing a twice a month newsletter surrounding our topic. So that'll give people a chance to catch up on what they're missing. And again, as usual, make sure you like the page. There's the real estate page, as well as the podcast page, and then sign up for notifications and sign up for the audio feed.
And since this was about the pre-approval letter, we'll also post that that video that we referenced earlier, which is that 2-minute YouTube video, and it's an animation. It's not me standing up here.
Again, right? Yeah. So